Can I start by asking you a question about the Rennard scandal? And I'd be grateful if we didn't use the expression a running commentary, because I've heard that a few times. One question, what did you hear and when?
Back in 2008, so I became leader of the Liberal Democrats in 2007. I genuinely can't give you a date. I mean, it's one of the sort of many specific details that we need to piece together in the investigations I've launched. But during the course of 2008, general concerns about his behaviour, inappropriate behaviour towards women, was brought to the attention of my office, and so of course to me. And then we acted on that. We acted on that by challenging him, confronting him directly, saying, what's going on? This is unacceptable. It's important to remember that my office at the time was told, of course, things have evolved.
This was your Chief of Staff, Danny Alexander.
Was told at the time that the women didn't want to take the matter forward in terms of complaints. They just wanted the inappropriate behaviour from Lord Rennard to stop. And that's why he was confronted. And of course, a few months later, he left as chief executive. So 2008, so a year after I became, and of course, a lot of these things were referring in general terms to behaviour which, at the time, I didn't, and I still don't quite know over what period of time it was supposed to have taken place.
He left in 2009. Was his departure related to this?
Well, obviously, this was all in the background. I mean, look, I became, like any new leader of any organisation, political party, any organisation, I wanted to make sure that the organisation reflected my priorities, my values. I felt it was time for a change at the top of the kind of the professional party. His health was poor, and that was the immediate reason why he left. But of course, these things were in the background, but his ill health was the immediate reason why he stood down.
So when last week you or your office was consulted by the Channel 4 news programme, why did you initially say you didn't know what they were talking about? You had no knowledge of this?
No, I think, to be absolutely clear, we were asked a very simple question. Did I know about the allegations put forward by the women who spoke out in the Channel 4 broadcast? But by the way, it so happens to be that one of the women who spoke out, someone I've known for a very long time, care for a lot, who worked for me. I spoke to her over the weekend, who never said anything to me, and we gave a direct answer, which is completely... Anyway, we can just be clear now, because you asked a very simple question.
Sure.
As we were asked then, I did not know about those allegations. Absolutely not. And can I just stress something? I hope anyone who knows me, and I so much believe that it is crucial that you treat people with respect and dignity in everything you do. And that's what I expect of people in the organisation that I lead. That clearly did not happen here, to put it mildly. There were some very serious mistakes, and the women were not listened to, and they were let down. And I am. That's why on Thursday, when I did hear about the allegations, which I'd not heard of before, I immediately launched 2 investigations, which will look at everything without any sort of fear or favour. Unflattering though the picture might be in terms of how these things were handled in the past, because I want to make sure that my party will always be a party which treats people with the dignity and respect that they deserve. But that was the answer we gave last week, was because we didn't know, of course, about those.
But in April 2010, had a dossier not been passed to you via Jonathan Oates, your Director of Election Communications from the Daily Telegraph, with some names and places and dates and occasions?
No, that wasn't passed on to me. I mean, as Johnny Oates has explained, that wasn't passed on to me. It was sent to him 4 days before the general election. Of course, one of the things, Nick, that I need to get to the bottom of, and I will get to the bottom of, subject, frankly, slightly about whether the police are going to take it forward as a criminal matter, but these 2 investigations that I've launched. So I took action when those general concerns were brought to the attention of my office 5 years ago, and took immediate action last week when the allegations were broadcast on Channel 4. What I need to get to the bottom of is what happens in a situation where, as what appears to have happened, is that women expressed their concerns, didn't want to at that stage take their concerns forward, wanted the behaviour to stop. And of course I need to get to the bottom, and I will get to the bottom of who passes on information on to whom. It so happens to be that on that specific question of the letter sent by the Daily Telegraph to Johnny Oates, he didn't pass that on to me.
And what have you said to Mr. Oates as a result of that?
Well, he felt that 4 days before a general election, because he knew what the answer was, that I didn't know anything about the allegations, he would just send back an answer straight off to the Daily Telegraph. But clearly something went seriously wrong in the organisation as a whole, that people were not talking to each other in the way that they should. And most importantly, the people who matter the most are these women who, I can only imagine the anguish that you've been intimidated and bullied and threatened in the way that they say they were, and that you then feel that no one who should be looking after you, should be looking after your interests, should be protecting your dignity and respect, that people didn't properly listen. And that's, of course, what that's why, as I say, my office acted on what we were told 5 years ago, and again immediately last week.
And what did Danny Alexander say? Lastly on that, when he goes and has the meeting with Lord Rennard, who has denied all allegations, better put that in there, what did he say to you? He must have phoned you up and said, well, Nick...
Well, as I said, he went as my chief of staff
to meet Lord Rennard,
Lord Rennard, and said, these are the general concerns that,
and then what did he report back? What did Danny Alexander?
Sandra Gidley, a former MP, has confirmed today.
She spoke with you.
Yeah, no, she raised it, as she says, in general terms. She wasn't aware of any specific allegations, and as she's confirmed today, I didn't either. So there was this sort of general concern.
Yeah.
Danny
Alexander meets with Rennard.
Says, we've been told that there are these general concerns. They're totally unacceptable. If you're doing this kind of thing, you must stop now. Right. He vociferously denied it all. Danny then asks, do the women want to take, who've spoken at that stage anonymously and without specific details, do they want to take it forward? My office is told, no, they don't want to take it forward. They just want the behaviour to stop. And that, in a sense, of course, I'm keen that these investigations should look at everything with hindsight, but we acted as we could with what we were told at the time. But do you know what? Look, I totally, as I say, the women have been let down. There have been some serious mistakes. My party's got nothing to hide. I've got nothing to hide. I want these investigations that I launched immediately last week.
Should have been launched about 5 years ago, shouldn't they?
Well, I think
that was the time to prove or disprove what was going on.
At the end of the day, you can only launch investigations into allegations when they are made, when people actually come forward and say, this is what happened, look into this. And that is not something that happened until, as far as I'm concerned, until last Thursday.
But there seems to be a fair amount of knowledge. MPs talking.
Yes, there were. I mean, some people, as you say, some people have talked about rumours.
Yeah.
I've been very clear and as candid as I can about the fact that there were these general concerns which were expressed and which were acted upon. But all I care about at the end of the day is that my party, the Liberal Democrats, a party which believes to its core in treating people with dignity and respect, does so itself as well, and that clearly did not happen, and that is a very serious issue. It distresses me immensely that women who I know, who are really good people I respect and admire a lot, feel that they were as sort of abandoned, if you like, as they clearly felt they were.